Hello, everybody. This is a video response for Stooks Cards and Curiosities 200 subscriber giveaway. Congratulations. On to bigger things. You've got a great collection. You put out content. You're personable. We'll be doing 400 here before you know. As a matter of fact, I checked right before I hit record. It's like 2:30 or something, just since you began the current giveaway. So you wanted some in-person autograph stories, and I didn't gather whether or not these were like chance encounters or if it was okay if you paid to meet them, but I'm only going to do one of those. And if you're a longtime subscriber, you see this card about every other video. But here at the National last year, I met Rickey Henderson, who, as most of you know, is my favorite player from my childhood, all-time favorite player. I just wanted to tell the story again really quick. Obviously, it was a paid signing. I didn't do the photograph where you pay to have the photograph done, but I did do a lean-in shot, which is just as good for me. But I'm one of the last people to get called based on my ticket number to line up. And I get lined up and I start having like a panic attack. Like my heart rate starts racing. I start having trouble breathing. And I don't know if that sounds silly to anybody, but here I'm about to meet Rickey Henderson. It was too much for me to process. And so I took some deep breaths and calmed myself down. I reminded myself he's human like anybody else, and he's talking with people and smiling, and there's no reason it won't go just fine. But I had my little, what I wanted to say kind of rehearsed, and it's great to meet you. I'm a longtime fan. He hears this 200 times a day, which is fine. He deserves that. It's totally fine. But I had a picture that I wanted to show him of me with his name on a birthday cake. And when I asked my mom to make the cake, I think I was 14, I said, I want a Rickey Henderson cake. Well, my brother's name is Rickey, R-I-C-K-Y. So when she went to write out Rickey Henderson, she put R-I-C-K-Y, Henderson. And so I showed him the picture and I said, I had you on everyone says they're a Rickey Henderson fan, but I had you on a birthday cake. Only thing is, and then I zoomed to the cake, I said, my brother's name is Rickey too, spelled without an E, so my mom misspelled your name. And he just leaned in and smiled. He said, yeah, she did. And we chuckled a little bit and shook his hand, got the lean-in picture. And they can bury this thing with me or wait till I'm gone and they can sell it. Either way, it's staying with me. Most of my in-person autograph experiences have been at Everett Aqua Sox games between 2015 and 2019, when after I went into education, I had a lot more free time in the summer, and I would just go to games, probably 10 a year on average, maybe 12. I tried to see each team at least once, because sometimes there was coaches I wanted to get or highly ranked prospects I wanted to try to get autographs of. Now, at the time, Everett was a low A, short season team. So the season was only like 2.5 months long. And we tended to get players like just drafted or just out of high school. Most of them didn't have cards. I'll show you what my workaround was for that in a second. But I really enjoyed going to see like which coaches I could get. And some of them were pretty notable. Of course, my favorite all-time coach, or I guess he was a special instructor, to get was another one of my boyhood heroes, Alvin Davis. And I got him on a bat, which was my main story because that was the first time I got him. But I just grabbed one of my Alvin Davis pages. These are a mix of cards that I got in person or bought or were given to me. And I lost track of which ones were in person versus whatever, purchased or gifted. But I have like 5 pages like this, Alvin Davis stuff, and they all kind of bleed together. But there you go, just the idea. Alvin Davis, Mr. Mariner. AL Rookie of the Year, 1984. Another Mariner legend I like to get. Now, both Davis and this person weren't around every game. They kind of rove. So you need like an insider to text you or let you know they're there, or follow Twitter, or just hopefully you catch wind that they're around. But Dan Wilson, there's a page of Dan Wilson's. Just for the fun of it, I grabbed another page of Dan Wilson. Now, the story, just like with Ricky Henderson, when I got the Alvin Davis cards, my heart was racing. I was stumbling over my words, and I just was gushing. And I think it had been a while since Mr. Davis people had talked to him like that, because he was smiling and shaking my hand, and he asked me my name 3 times, and I was just, anyway, it was quite a day. And for someone like Dan Wilson, you usually say, oh, it's great to meet you. I'm a lifelong Mariners fan. Thank you for everything you did for the team, and no one will ever forget 1995. And you just find stuff to say like that. And, again, like, they hear this stuff all the time, but that doesn't mean that it's not from the heart. We admire these players because of their accomplishments, so it's okay to talk about those things. Now, one of my favorite actual coaches to get, he was a batting coach for 2 years, I believe, and at one point I had probably 50 autographs of him, because he would sign basically what you brought, up to like 6 or 7, and that's Brian L. Hunter. Now, at one point there was 2 Brian Hunters in the major leagues at the same time. This is the taller, lankier one, came up with the Astros, played for the Tigers, played for the Mariners, a couple other teams. And this is a great card. A lot of you have seen this before. And when I got this signed by him, he pulled it out of my binder, or I handed it to him. And he was running around showing all the Spanish-speaking players the card, and laughing about it and having a great time. And that's a great memory. He had a big personality, always very personable. Super cool guy, and that was a fun, really 2 years, because I knew I was coming back with a handful of cool autographs. One other thing I got him on was this 8x10, and it says Signature Rookies. So I don't know if this was a send away. I know it didn't come in packs because it's not folded up, but this picture of him breaking the bat in half, and I asked him to inscribe it. It says, "Stay strong, Brian Hunter, Eddy, Eddie." But I said, "You did that over your knee like Bo Jackson, right?" He says, you know it. And he had a good laugh about that. So those are 2 that I really like from Brian L. Hunter. Sometimes the visiting team had cool coaches that you wanted to get autographs of. And every once in a while, you get an autograph and you kind of, now, what am I going to say to this player? What am I going to ask? Am I going to ask him something? Tell him I remember a specific feat? And sometimes you just lock up and you say something kind of stupid. And honestly, the late Doug Jones, I told him I thought this was a cool card. And I said, "Did they really light the ball on fire?" And he just kind of looks at me and says, "Yeah. How else would they do it?" He didn't say that, but you could see it on his face. And then he signed and left. And I was like, man, I wish I could have that one back. But Doug Jones. Sometimes in Everett, you get players on rehab assignment, which is cool. And shortly after his first little run-in with PED suspensions, Robinson Cano was on a rehab assignment. And I didn't really get to interact with him, but he did 1 per. And I got this done. Robinson Cano. I missed out on getting Felix on a rehab assignment because he wasn't doing. I was there, but he could hardly sign because it would have been too crazy. Minor players like Steve Cishek, I've got on rehab. Players like that. Now, for this next little grouping of cards, I really don't have any great stories to go with them because they're players that were current at the time. And like I said, a lot of them, 18, 19, 20 years old, don't even have cards. So usually you just say, welcome to Everett. Thank you for stopping and signing for me. Looking forward to seeing you play. And usually they say, oh, that's great. And then they sign whatever you have. And then oftentimes, because they're not used to signing autographs, they thank you for getting the autograph. But some of those guys go on to be major contributors to your team. And a good example would be All-Star from this year, George Kirby. And again, I had to make some of these cards because they didn't have cards. You get drafted out of high school or even oftentimes out of college, you don't have cards. There's George Kirby, and I have 3 or 4 like these. And then later when he started to get cards like Pro Debut and Team Set cards, I got a couple of those too. Maybe they go on to hit a huge playoff berth clinching home run for your team, and you saw them home run 2 days ago in person on Sunday at T-Mobile Park. Cal Raleigh, big dumper, and he was a guy, he just seemed like a major leaguer when he got there. I mean, he just felt like he was for real. Not because of any tools that you were witnessing, really. He just had a sense about him. And Seattle loves Cal Raleigh, big dumper. Didn't have the nickname then, so couldn't put it on the card. But that's one of my favorites. Sometimes they win Rookie of the Year for your team and then go on to relative obscurity, even though you slapped up their custom. Kyle Lewis. Is there anyone that doesn't have a stack of Kyle Lewis slabs sitting around? One of those things. Signed with Arizona after being released by Seattle. I think he's played 3 games. I was at the game where he injured his knee on a home plate collision. And even though he made it to the show, somehow won Rookie of the Year and COVID year, he just wasn't the same. But I promise you, it's a what could have been story because he was awesome. He was awesome. Now, not all prospects are for the visitor. Sometimes someone comes into town and they're maybe a high first-round draft pick, and you think, hey, I need to get an autograph just in case. This player is actually from Washington State, so this serves two purposes, a little bit of prospecting and getting cards for the home state collection. And if you're a Diamondbacks fan or watch the All-Star game or follow the modern sport, you know Corbin Carroll pretty well. I went 4 for 4 on customs. And this is probably one of the last in-person autographs I got in Everett. Until early August, when I'm finally going back. Didn't go at all last year. During 2021, they were still not letting players near people. And so we're going to go get 3 of the top 4 Mariners prospects are in Everett now. And 2 of the top 3 or 4 Rockies. And they all have cards. So wish me luck on August 2nd. Back to the game. So I don't really have great stories with the prospects. Again, they're just like, hey, thanks for signing. Hey, no problem. Thanks for asking me. As weird as that sounds, compare that to, big leaguers who get asked 80 times a day. That's it for now. Hope this isn't too long. I just wanted to show some of this stuff off. Some of these I've never really showed off. So there you go. Stu, congratulations on 200, on your way, 400 and beyond, whatever. Keep up what you're doing. And until next time, remember, we don't count subscribers, we count friends.